Welcome back to the Corporate Sister TV. I'm Solange Ropes and I'm the founder of the Corporate Sister website and brand. In today's video, I am discussing how we as working women and moms can leverage and maximize the power of change in our careers and by extension in our lives. Who would have told us back in 2020 that a few short weeks after the start of the year that we'd all be hunkered down in our homes, homeschooling our kids, working remotely, and for us as working women and moms, shouldering the brunt of household responsibilities, care responsibilities, and pretty much doubling and even tripling the load that we were carrying before the pandemic. The least we can say is that change has definitely been forced upon us and introduced to us during this most recent crisis that we're barely trying to emerge out of. The reality is the only constant is change, not just because of this pandemic, not just because of a future crisis, natural disasters, or just a change in the direction of our lives and our work. It is going to happen. The only constant is change. The issue is that for us, especially as working women and moms, very few of us have been socialized to realize that change is a constant and to actually put systems and processes in place and change our mindsets to leverage and maximize the power of change in our careers and in our lives. My perspective was definitely changed after this pandemic, and even more after I read this great book entitled Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. That is a fascinating short story that really shows an amazing way to look at change and to deal with change in our work and lives. I highly recommend it for anyone interested in how to deal with change at work and in life in general. And from this perspective, change that I experience and that so many other people, especially working women and moms, experience throughout and after this pandemic, it's become really urgent to make recognizing change and dealing with change a priority in our careers and in our lives. So I wanted to suggest 3 ways to deal with change, and even more than dealing with change, to maximize the power of change in our work and in our lives. The first way is to expect and to prepare for change. As I mentioned earlier, we've hardly been taught to prepare for change. We've hardly been taught to consider change as being really the only constant. If anything, we've been socialized to strive for comfort, for predictability, for a sense of certainty, for whatever makes us feel at ease. And what all of that has really done to us is it has really put us in a very precarious and difficult situation every time we'd face change. And that was really proven during this pandemic when we were just assaulted by a slew of changes, from the way we worked, to the way we lived, to the way we taught our kids, to the way we viewed and engaged in our relationships. And for many, if not most of us, it was a real struggle. And the main reason behind this is we just really, at the core of it, don't like change because we've not been taught to deal and approach change in a way that helps us maximize its power so that we can use it positively in our work and life. So what does it look like to expect change and to prepare for it, especially as working women and moms? What it looks like is, 1, a mindset shift. Changing our mindset and our mental approach from an approach to seeking comfort and ease and certainty to an approach that's looking at things being different as more of an adventure, as more of an opportunity to learn something new, to discover new things, and to grow through the process. This may seem like nothing, but this simple mindset shift can change so much in our perspective and in the way we approach change. Instead of approaching change with a spirit of fear, a spirit of hesitancy, consistency, we can rise to the challenge and welcome difficulties and changes and little deviations and forks in our path with more of an open mind, with more of an open perspective and an open heart. What it looks like in addition to this mindset shift is also putting together systems and processes that allow us to be ready when change gets here, so that we're not stuck into our old ways, when we're not stuck into our old mind patterns, our old action patterns, but we can recognize that change happens, that it is okay that it happens, and that we have processes and systems in place that allow us to approach this change in a more positive way. Which brings us to point number 2, which is the second way to maximize the power of change in our careers and in our lives, and that is to adapt to it. What do I mean by adapting to change? Does it mean that we should change who we are at the core? Does it mean that we should forget about the old ways of doing things, the old ways of working and living, and just replace these with brand new, unfamiliar ways of working, living, engaging in relationships? Absolutely not. What it means is being able to use what we have, what we've learned throughout our careers, what we've learned throughout our personal and professional experiences, and reframe all of this learning, reframe all of this knowledge, reframe all of these mindsets that are associated with it in a way that allows us to be more flexible and more nimble, so that we can adapt to changes happening. An example of this would be the advent of technology, the increase in the use of technology during the pandemic, because most, if not all of us, had to work remotely. What it meant for most of us is having to not just change our mindset, but also reframe what we know, what we've learned, and the ways of working that we have been used to, and repackage these in a way that could be communicated and in a way that could be passed through technology tools, right? So we've had to get used to holding meetings remotely and communicating information remotely, and repackage our systems and processes using technology. So that is the power of adaptability that really forces us in a good way, right? Not to ditch what we've had before, but to reframe it, repackage it in a way that allows us to face change, not in a vulnerable and limited position, but to face change in a powerful position that allows us now to leverage what we have and repackage it in a way that we can still use it and actually increase the power of what we have through the vehicle of change. That was way number 2. And now, last but not least, way number 3 is to enjoy the process. I spoke earlier about facing, the prospect of change with fear, because we're so used to striving for predictability and certainty, and now having to face something different brings about a lot of fear and anxiety. And this is what blocks us in the process of adapting to change and in the process of leveraging change. Now, switching our mindset from one of fear to one of enjoyment, one of curiosity, one of passion can make all the difference in the world. Certainly, the changes we've faced recently and the changes we're still facing are quite challenging, difficult, and many of them are quite painful, to tell the truth. But they also offer us the opportunity to grow. They also offer us the opportunity to discover facets of ourselves, facets of our organizations, businesses, companies, facets of our society that we may not have known of before, that without this crisis, we may not have discovered the treasures of resilience that we had as a society, the treasures of innovation, of competencies, of social acumen that we do have as a society. And that makes this process, even though painful and challenging, an enjoyable adventure and process of discovery into ourselves, into others, into society, and into the way we work and live in general. These are the 3 ways that I wanted to offer to your consideration as you're facing and maybe struggling with change in your careers and by extension in your lives. And this is especially important for us as working women and moms, as we wear so many hats, and the impact of change can be felt so much more intensely in our careers and in our lives, because there are so many layers that are associated with what we do at work and what we do in our lives. I'd be curious to hear about your perspective on change and how you tackle change, or how you've grown through change, or even the fears that you're still facing when it comes to tackling change at work and in life. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.